This new year, Goal 90 drops something special, football-inspired phone cases made for the Goal 90 fam. From club colours to country pride, we've got you covered. And the best part? Customise it with your name and number. Head to the Goal 90 shop and get yours now.
Last season, Brennan Johnson was one of Spurs' most important players. The North London club struggled for the most part of the season, but he often came up with clutch, very important goals, including one of the most important ones in their entire history. But just about 6 months after that, he's already been forced out of the club. Why? We'll be trying to answer that question in this video today. This is why Spurs are already getting rid of Brennan Johnson. The Welshman hardly got any playing time at Spurs this season and has now agreed to move to Crystal Palace in the January transfer window. And no, it's not a loan move. Spurs made the big decision to get rid of him permanently, agreeing to a £33.5 million deal with London rivals Crystal Palace. What this means is that they're registering a loss on this one, having bought him for £47.5 million from Nottingham Forest in 2023. And that makes everything even more strange. So why did he really have to leave? Why on earth did Spurs sell their top scorer at a loss in the middle of the season? Well, first of all, a lot happened in the summer. There was a change of coach and a few new attacking players were brought in. They brought in Xavi Simons and Mohamed Kudus, made Matis Tel's loan deal permanent, and brought in Randall Kolo Muani on loan. All that business in the attack simply meant that some players would suffer, but we didn't expect it to be Brennan Johnson. Already Son and Mikey Moore had left in the summer, but some more were expected to leave. However, with Kulusevski, Solanke and Maddison battling injuries expected to keep them out for the majority of the season, everyone thought that all hands would have to be on deck and the coach would find a goalscorer like Johnson very valuable. But he just wasn't one of Thomas Frank's favourites. Last season, Brennan Johnson was Spurs' highest goalscorer, outscoring Son, Solanke, Richarlison and Kulusevski. But not only did he score goals, he scored the most important one all season, and perhaps in the club's entire history, the winner in the Europa League final against Man United. See, Spurs had a terrible 2024-25 season. They finished just one place above the relegation zone in the Premier League, and it was destined to be the worst season in the club's history. But it was saved at the very end by the Europa League trophy, which was won thanks to Johnson's goal. And not only did he score in the final, he also had a hand in helping them get there, scoring 5 goals in the competition, including another in the semi-final. That Europa League victory is the reason they're now playing in the UEFA Champions League, despite having finished 17th on the table last season. But more importantly, it put an end to the club's 17-year trophy drought. And although some fans had some complaints about Johnson's style of play, they began to really see his value, and some even called him a hero. Not only was he efficient, he was also very available. Spurs suffered a lot of injuries last season. I mean, the whole squad was wrecked, but Johnson was always there. He was one of the players with the most minutes played for the club, and he covered different positions for the coach throughout the season. Efficiency and availability should have made him an untouchable player this season, but Thomas Frank appears to have seen things differently. And you know what's really interesting? He started the new season really well too. Ange was sacked over the summer and Thomas Frank was brought in to replace him, and at the beginning, it looked like Johnson was not affected by the change of managers. He was continuing his great form in front of goal, and folks were even thinking he could perhaps finish the season as Spurs' top scorer again. He started Tottenham's first 2 Premier League games of the season and scored in both. One of those games was a big one against Manchester City, and his goal helped Spurs secure a 2-0 win and start the season in brilliant fashion. But despite this great start, Frank started to put him on the bench in subsequent games, causing his minutes to drastically reduce. Johnson would go on to start just 3 more Premier League games after the first 3 games of the season. It became obvious that he just wasn't the coach's favourite. But why? Well, you see, one would expect that Thomas Frank would love fast and efficient players like Brennan Johnson, as he enjoys being on the defensive and playing counter-attacking football. But there's one thing Frank loves in his attackers that Brennan Johnson lacks. We'll talk about that in a second, but if you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, go do that right away so that you never miss out on our amazing content. Being a defensive coach, Thomas Frank's setup usually requires that the defenders send long balls from back to front, and he'll need players up front from whom it's hard to get the ball. Guys like Kudus and Mbumo are both strong and can dribble, while the likes of Tony and Richarlison are typical centre forwards who can hold up play expertly and always guard their ball. Brennan Johnson doesn't have any of these qualities. He's not a very physical player and he's not the best dribbler, so he's not the type you ask to hold the ball under pressure. He's a guy that just wants to arrive in the box at the right time and tap in a goal. This must be one of the major reasons Thomas Frank let him go in January. But perhaps the biggest one is that Mohamed Kudus is there now. The Ghanaian is simply a better attacker than Brennan Johnson. His dribbling, hold-up play, passing, creativity and associative play are all better than Johnson's. And, well, they both play primarily on the right wing, so one had to leave. And don't forget, Dejan Kulishevsky is still coming back and he can play on the right as well. It would simply be an overload on that wing. So it was best for all parties that he leaves and moves to where he can get more game time, hence his sale. Johnson himself would want to be playing a lot more so that he can help Wales ahead of the World Cup. They play Bosnia and Herzegovina and possibly Italy or Northern Ireland in March for a place at the World Cup. Johnson would want to be arriving at those games full of confidence so that he can really help his country. So the move to Crystal Palace is surely a better option for him. So, considering everything, Johnson leaving Spurs this January is not entirely a bad idea, but there are a lot of fans who say Spurs would have been better off loaning him out, at least until the end of the season. Thomas Frank hasn't shown enough to convince everyone that he can be the club's long-term coach. So, selling off one of the club's most proficient players midway into the season because of him sounds like too much commitment. What if they go on to sack the coach and his replacement is one who would absolutely love a player like Brennan Johnson? That would be an absolute waste then, especially because the club didn't even make any profit from his sale. But, well, it's too late to dwell on all of that now. The Welshman has completed his move to Crystal Palace and he's already set for his new chapter. Now we want to hear from you guys. Why do you think Spurs sold him in January? Was it a wise decision from them? Do you think that Johnson will do well at Crystal Palace? How many goals and assists will he finish the season with? Tell us what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so that you never miss out on new content. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.